Welcome to today's Q&A. My name is Jessie. We're talking about miles, pay, home time, all things trucking, all things Decker Truckline Trucking. There we go. Again, my name is Jessie here with Decker Truckline. This is a Q&A, so that means you get to ask questions and I get to answer them. So put your questions in the chat, and as I see them, I'll answer them. And in the meantime, hopefully I'm beating you to the punch and answering those questions ahead of time for you. We'll talk about orientation. We'll talk about the equipment. Like I said, all the different positions that we have currently, availability, and which ones have sign-on bonuses, which ones don't, and maybe even some running lanes. I'll try to cover it all. But again, if you have questions, put it in the chat and I'll answer them. So welcome. Today is the 21st of July. We are putting right through there. I'm getting right through all through 2025, I swear. Anyways, I think I say that every week because every week it just seems like it flies by. But either way, let's talk about some of the different positions that we have here. We are currently, we have available refrigerated and flatbed opportunities. Most of the opportunities we have are solo, although we do have a team position available in the over-the-road refrigerated division. So, before I get too far into things, I have a telephone number that is flying across the screen right now. It's sitting there, but it's 877-233-2537. That telephone number is going to get you to the recruiting department. So they're right there waiting for you. They'll answer your questions. And then drivedecker.com, where's that at? Drivedecker.com. That's the website to go to fill out the application, maybe even putz around a little bit. You can see some of the different job opportunities available there as well. But honestly, for more specifics, my opinion is talking to a recruiter or even hopping on the Q&A, you're going to get a whole lot more information than you will on the website because it updates constantly and we're going to give you the here and now. Although we did just do an overhaul on our website, so that beautiful site should be running smoothly for you and give you the most up-to-date on everything. So, hey, Riley, going well. Hopefully it's going well for you so far today. Yeah, we have just gotten a ton of rain, and it's soaking up pretty well because, the last couple of days was hot. It's not very often that during the middle of summer here, I'm in Montana, but during the middle of summer that you're getting some good heat, of course, that's normal, but then a good chunk of rain without hail. That's not very common. And we just had not a flood, thank goodness, but just, a downpouring that was very, very welcomed. I can tell you that. We don't like forest fires up here. And even though they thought we had a huge amount of snow in the mountains at the beginning of the spring, summer, it really wasn't lasting. Could have told you that, but Hey, Flatbed Trucker, how are you? Good to have you. Thank you. All right, so where was I? Oh, I was talking about team opportunities. So if you have questions on teams, we're going to just kind of dive into that real quick. I won't spend too much time on it unless there is somebody on here currently that has questions about the team, and then I will answer those, of course. But most of our teams most of our positions are solo. Mike, who do I talk to about getting home time other than my DM? Your DM or your driver leader would be the first, and then the next person I would go above is their director. So refrigerated, I'd get a hold of probably Brandon or no, I'd get a hold of Paul. So get a hold of Paul. Otherwise, with flatbed, either Mark Gleason or Jeremy Foster. So my pencil work here. So Mike, driver leader and director. Okay. Yeah, that way we can kind of touch base here in a little bit, Mike, and I can make sure that you were able to get to one or the other of them. To the next level, right? There you go. Yeah, always setting yourself up and making sure that you're progressive with that. Proactive. Progressive works too. Let's see. Use the right word. Okay. Teams. We on the pay scale for teams is 60 cents a mile, and that basically is for all teams. That's just the base though. That's the weekly pay. Most of our teams are running over 24,000 miles for the month, and because of that, because of our pay scale, just kind of goes up. Of course, should go up, right? An extra 2 cents a mile. There's different levels, but honestly, everybody's over the 18,000 miles a month, which is the top level. So anything over 18,000 miles a month, you get an extra 8 cents a mile. I don't know any team that's not there. They're, like I said, around 24,000. So that extra 8 cents a mile, which is actually ends up being 4 cents per driver, that's paid to you around the third pay period of every month following when you ran it. So that would pay out this week for June. So all the miles that team ran during June, they're calculated, and anything, because they're over 18,000 miles a month, they'll get that extra 8 cents a mile. But that 8 cents a mile applies to all miles, not just those over 18,000. It applies for all the miles that they completed for June. And to back up just a little bit, all of the rate of pay that I'm going to be quoting you, that's all based off of, or that's all including the per diem. So you're not taxed on 10 cents a mile, which would be 5 cents per driver in this case because it's a team. Hopefully that makes sense. The app doesn't have them. They should be available to you on important contacts on the TransFlow app. So if you go to the TransFlow app, Mike, and I'm trying to picture what it looks like, but go to important contacts on the TransFlow app or the orientation workbook, which is in Decker information on the TransFlow app when you go to the dashboard. So TransFlow app, dashboard, and then scroll to important contacts. It's the same page that's in the orientation workbook. You just don't have to search through it. And it's just a one-page document. It should be on there, I think. If not, I will get their numbers for you, Mike. Hey, Sean. Hey, bud. Yeah, that way you have them. Unless you got their card, you might have gotten their card during orientation too, because I know they try to come into orientation every week, every Wednesday usually. So for the teams, an extra 8 cents a mile, that is all taxed. The extra cents per mile or any increase is going to be all taxable income. The 10 cents, the amount doesn't increase. It's still 10 cents per mile. That's taxed all the way through. Yeah, so whether you're at 60, well, we'll talk about that as a team or as a solo position, but as a team, it's 60 cents a mile as a base, which is 30 cents per driver. 5 cents per mile is taxed, so 25 is not taxed, 5 is taxed. Wrong way around. 25 cents is taxed, 5 cents is not taxed per driver because of the per diem. And then, of course, that extra mileage bonus, that is all taxed, that whole 4 cents a mile per driver or 8 cents as the team. Hopefully that's making sense. I did, it's not working. Ooh, okay. I had it earlier this morning. I had tested it, so let me do some more checking when I'm done with the live, because it should have worked smoothly. We just redid the website, so some of those links we had to do some double checking, and it did work as of this morning. Back out and try one more time, Mike. So for those of you wondering, I know I'm skipping back and forth, but comments, chat, that's priority, because obviously I want to make sure that you guys, this is a Q&A, so I want to make sure that your questions are being answered. Mike is referring to our TransFlow app, which has a lot of our communications and resources available on it. And on the dashboard of the TransFlow, you can access quite a bit of our information, from training videos to contacts to so much more. Yeah. Mike says, do you have your Harley ready for Sturgis? I don't have a Harley. That would be scary. We actually don't have a Harley. We have just stock in Harley. We have a, now I gotta think of it. It's a Boulevard. It's a touring edition, but it's a Boulevard C50. And we feel like we're on a Harley because before we had uh, a special 2 Honda. So you guys might appreciate it, you might not, but it was a lot smaller bike, and when there were 2 adults on that, I tell you what, that is hard to make it up a pass. But no, Mike, I don't have my Harley. How about you? Do you have your Harley ready? It'd be interesting to know how many people are headed to Sturgis. Whole bunch of them, I'm sure. Which brings to a reminder, summer safety. Yeah, you got summer safety all together. You're usually thinking, like extra water, making sure that if you have a dog on your truck, that they've got extra water, that everything's cool. You want to make sure everything's cool, that your APU is working properly, your air conditioning, all that good stuff. But it also means, obviously, construction. You got to be aware of that. And, of course, bikes. That's a good point. Bikes are going to be on the road. They already are. Please be aware of them. Please, caution. One thing that I'm not a huge fan of, really not a fan of, actually, is that bikes can now drive down in between lanes. Like when you're stopped at a stoplight or whatever, and it turns green, and then they'll just zoom right between everybody. I am not a fan of that. I don't like that. I think it's super dangerous, but that's my own opinion, not fact for anybody else. Anyways, please be safe, because there are different rules out there for everybody. Mike says he's got a Buell and blows Harley Davidsons away on the twisty road, Suzuki Boulevard. Yeah, it is a Suzuki Boulevard. Yep. Last year at age 63. Really? That's cool. Very cool. Yeah, I mean, and they always have good music down there, all kinds of activities. Craziness, but, fun craziness. Lane splitting. Yeah, I just, that makes me nervous. So, be safe. Safety, priority, making a priority, making a, just slowing down and making sure that you're not necessarily slowing down the truck speed necessarily. I just mean, like, don't rush yourself, and make sure that you're, your surroundings and everybody around. Yeah, that's all right. Be safe if you're on the road, especially with your bike, right? Okay. Yeah, so for the team opportunities, it's over the road. We do have teams that run more dedicated. Those positions are not currently open, so I want to make sure that I'm deciphering between the two. But with the over-the-road opportunity, you're out about 4 weeks at a time. But with that over-the-road opportunity, there could be weeks that you would slip in and run some of that dedicated to cover a team, and then come back out and do the OTR again. So there's a little bit of movement there with it. Again, 877-233-2537 if you want to speak to a recruiter about it, kind of get the details. And then we also have solo positions across. So again, if you have more questions on the team, stop me, have me rewind. Let's go over that. But as of the solo positions, the refrigerated and flatbed, those are the majority of what we currently have. Refrigerated have a couple of different options. We have out 11 days at a time and home for 3. We have out 21 days at a time, home for 4. We have 5. And then we have a home weekly opportunity as well. As far as that home weekly opportunity, that one does actually guarantee you home on the weekend, which is always a surprise to me, because I know within the trucking industry, especially refrigerated, that's hard to come by, is that type of guarantee. But we do have that home weekly, guaranteed home on the weekends, usually coming in on like a Friday night or a Saturday morning, and then back out either Sunday night or Monday morning. So it's 5 days, it's during the week. That one, they are shorter hauls, because it is very regional. In order to get you home as promised, that's what you're seeing. You obviously aren't going to be seeing as many miles in that position as you would in one that's 11 days out and 3 days home, because you're not cutting as many loads short, right? you're going to have to cut loads short in order to get you home. But if you are in those areas that, and it's not a huge area that we offer this home weekly opportunity, but I'd say Detroit, areas of Ohio and Indiana, Michigan, Wisconsin. So let us know, call the number, find out if you're in the hiring area, 877-233-2537. Find out if you're in the hiring area, and then we can get into more specifics of, okay, this is what the home time is, this is what kind of miles you can look at. And you're probably looking at around, I think the 1,100 to 1,200 is the norm for that one. I might have to double check, it might be a little bit more than that, but I think that's about the average for your weekly pay. That's, by the way, when I'm quoting weekly pay, I am quoting before taxes because there's too many variables after taxes, like what you claim, where you live, for tax wise. If you have Decker insurance, if you're doing a 401k, we offer 401k, we have a 25% match. So some people are taking advantage of it, some people aren't, people are taking a higher advantage of it than others. So there's a lot of variables. I'm quoting you gross pay, so before taxes. Please keep that in mind. Okay, so that is the home weekly refrigerated opportunity. The equipment we have available for refrigerated and flatbed, like those are pretty consistent throughout. So I'll address the equipment here in just a little bit, but for now, just know that your top of the line equipment. Well, Peterbilt's Volvos, a few Freightliner, Cascadia Evolutions, but they're all very well maintained. They're newer model, and tons of amenities in them. So all kinds of goodies that way. But we'll address the specifics here in just a minute. With that home weekly, we don't have the minimum pay, which I know a lot of you guys are well aware of our minimum pay benefit for, across most of our divisions. We don't have it in this one because this one you're cutting loads short. We were able to control home time a little bit better, but you don't have that minimum pay. So hopefully that answers questions on that. Feel free to ask if you're in that. As far as some of the other refrigerated divisions, like the 11 out and 3 home, or the 21 out 5 home, those do have minimum pay available. They also have a sign-on bonus available to those who are new to coming into Decker. The sign-on bonus does have requirements. You do need to have at least 2 years of experience in order to qualify for the sign-on bonus. You also need to have no more than 3 jobs within the last 18 months to qualify for the refrigerated sign-on bonus. And depending on where you live, that sign-on bonus could be $4,000 or it could be $5,000. The amount is solely based off of where you live because of the need for available drivers in that specific area. So obviously with a $5,000 sign-on bonus, we have even more freight in there. We have a higher need in that location than maybe an area that's 4,000. So that's the difference. The pay or the payout for the sign-on bonus for the 4,000 is $1,000 paid out to you on your 6-month anniversary, $1,000 on your 9-month anniversary, and the remaining $2,000 on your 1 year or 12-month anniversary. As far as the sign-on bonus for the 5,000, it's $1,500 on your 6-month anniversary, $1,500 on your 9-month anniversary, and the remaining $2,000 on your 1 year anniversary or your on your 12-month anniversary. Mike says, what does cutting loads short mean? Good question, and I guess I just assumed that one. So when I say cutting loads short, I mean, like, if you are, see if I can do a good job of this, of explaining. So if you're on a load from point A to point B, let's just give specifics. So Chicago to Columbus, Ohio, okay? If you're on that load, but you need to be home or you're headed home first, you might have to hand off that load to another driver because it needs to be delivered while you're supposed to be on home time. So I'm cutting it short by giving that load to somebody else to deliver so that you can get home. Or another instance. And then in that case, by the way, if when you're swapping loads, so it's basically a swap. So if you're swapping those loads, then you're probably going to be delivering on maybe a Monday or, maybe a Sunday night or whatever it is that you're coming back out. So probably on a Monday, or you might have an empty coming home as well. So that's the difference between the two. But yeah, when I say cutting loads short, I mean we're like trying to we're stopping that load for you in order for you to get home. So, but that load it's still going. It's just stopping. Like you're done with it. You specifically are going to be done with that. So it's more swapping is for the most part. Another way of cutting short is if we have two different loads and one has more miles on it than the other, but the one with the more miles on it is going away from your house and we need to get you to the house, then you're probably going to be on the shorter one for that reason, right? So you're cutting the loads shorter that way. It just basically the slang that I use, that I assume everybody uses, even though I make up things half the time when it comes to words. But no, it's just basically just saying that we aren't able to get you as heavy of miles when we're promising you home on a specific time. And that's because not every load lines up perfectly logistically, for most people's home time. I think most of you, are used to that. If you're new to the industry, that would be news to you probably. But yeah, it's just making sure that home time is a priority for you and that we're still able to cover the loads, but it wouldn't be you necessarily covering the final destination for that one. Got it, he says. All right, cool. The reefer runs nonstop once the trailer is loaded. Exactly. Mini cold storage places operate 24/7. Right. And so another instance would be, as far as me using the phrase cutting a load short, it might mean that you are dropping it at a cold storage, and that cold storage, instead of delivering it, somewhere else or having to wait for the delivery or something like that. So, but yeah, and that could mean that you have a little bit more deadhead than some of the other divisions that are running, especially if they're running longer miles. So that, yeah, it's kind of covering all of those. I kind of lump it all together. Unknown asks, what is dress code and is driver uniforms with logos? No, we don't have, we definitely have a dress code. And I should probably pull that up so I'm not missing any of the content, because fairly recently we had made some changes to the dress code. A couple of some of our drivers as well had addressed a concern about not everybody representing well, and so we wanted to make sure that everybody was representing Decker as we feel you should, how you should reflect it. Meaning no open-toed shoes, no, let me see if I can find the actual policy. So I'm reading it properly, right? Where would I have put that? Let's look here. See if I can pull it up while I'm on the live here. Hopefully it doesn't. Oh, look, it's messing up my connection. Dang it. But yeah, we don't have, our dress code isn't one that's saying, hey, you need to make sure that you're wearing a Decker logo everywhere. No, that's not the case. We don't require that. If you do, awesome. We do have some fantastic, I love our shirts. We've got some Best Fleets to Drive For shirts. We won, by the way. We won Best Fleets to Drive For in 2025 for the best overall carrier. Love to see that. I'm trying to open this, to give me 1 second and see if I can, hopefully this is the one I'm looking for. But we don't require that you wear a Decker logo. We do, of course, require neat, clean, that type of thing. But as far as a Decker logo, we don't require it. Okay, I see. Let's see. It says Air 4041 page. Okay, Mike, let me work on that, okay? Because it was up and running earlier. And like I said, with all the updates, it could be it. Where is that image? It's opening this up. Just give me a sec here. Mike says companies like FedEx have mini yards. Oh yes, definitely. Drivers can drop a pair of trailers when they run out of hours, and another driver can hook in a few minutes and keep the trailer moving. Absolutely, and we do quite a bit of drop and hook actually when it comes to the originality of the loads. But no sandals. The other part we don't necessarily, that's not part of ours. Here it is. Okay, I'll read it. Make sure we got it. So, wear neat, clean, and appropriate clothing. Nothing excessively worn, sheer, too tight, or too loose. Nothing like that. No offensive logos or slogans or images on t-shirts, hats, or jackets. Closed toes are required. No Crocs, sandals, or open-toed shoes. Jewelry, makeup, hair, and tattoos should be in good taste and pose no safety risk. Maintain good hygiene, bathe regularly, launder clothes, and be mindful of strong odors like perfumes and colognes. Speaking of, we do have laundry facilities at most of our locations. The only one that we don't currently have, the shop that we don't currently have laundry facilities, these are free laundry facilities, by the way, that would be Des Moines. However, we have a car that you can sign out. So if your truck is in the shop in Des Moines, Iowa, then you can sign out one of the company vehicles and go to the laundromat, because it's not that far actually. Run to the laundromat or whatever errand you might need to run. Get that taken care of while your truck is in the shop. So we do have those perks or amenities available for you to make life a little bit easier. But in most of the locations, most of the terminal locations, we have laundry facilities that are free. We have designated pet areas or dog areas. We allow dogs. We have a dog wash bay in Fort Dodge. I think it's adorable. We have private rooms, meaning, your own private room that you can go into that has a TV, a lounge chair, just gives you some quiet time in case you need that when your truck is being worked on. We also have more of a community, a professional driver lounge as well, where you can kind of come together and hang out. But if you would rather be on your own, you have those private rooms. I think we have a couple in each, in several of the locations. Of course, the kitchenette and snacks and stuff like that available to you as well. Anyways, those just showers. In some of the locations, we've got showers available as well. So adhering to the dress code enhances your success at Decker and sets a professional tone for us. And of course, that's what it means to be a professional driver here at Decker. But a lot of those were suggestions from our professional drivers during one of our recent forums. Or this year's forum, which I thought was pretty cool progress, but wanting to represent Decker well. Pretty cool. Mike says, I actually like my running sandals in the summer. They strap around the ankles so that you can run in them. Okay, so I should specify, those are like when you're shipping and receiving. I get like when you're on your downtime and you are, maybe you're going for a hike or going for a walk. That's different when you're not driving and you're not going into a shipper or receiver, right? Yeah. Mike says, have to put on the high top work shoes when entering a warehouse. Yeah, exactly. Unknown says, is the next training backed up till August? Yes, I believe so. I do not. Well, do you mean orientation or do you mean training, like as a student? So orientation starts on Monday. It's Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, usually. Sometimes it'll get into Thursday, but usually you're assigned a truck either by Wednesday night or Thursday morning. So, yeah, orientation's usually 3 days. If you're a student, then yeah, it is a 5-day orientation. And I don't believe we have any availability until August, maybe September by this time. But that I would speak to your recruiter specifically. If you already have a recruiter, speak to them specifically to find out. And that date is constantly going to be pushed back because as we fill those student positions, as somebody signs on and is scheduled for that time period, then it'll move the next available one further out. Because obviously we only have so many training or trainers available to train. So yeah, last I heard it was I want to say end of August moving into September. So it might be September by now as far as students. Also, when it comes to the sign-on bonus, well, I guess I did state that you have to have 2 years of experience for the refrigerated side. So yeah, you students do not qualify for the sign-on bonus. I do want to make that clear so that I don't confuse anybody. And it's still $500 for completing orientation. We still pay you $500 for completing orientation, whether you're a student or you're an experienced driver. Experienced drivers are only a 3-day orientation, where the students are a 5-day. And then following your 5-day orientation as a student, you'd be with a trainer for 2 to 3 weeks. And you get paid roughly $700 a week because it's $100 a day. So if you're dispatched on one of the days, if you're done training and then go solo, so it cuts your week short, then you would get your rate of pay per mile for the other days, but you get $100 a day while you're with a trainer. Mike says the Decker driver that I met at Roger Penske Kroger warehouse. Yeah, we do allow dogs. Yep, we do allow dogs, and that is really non-aggressive breeds up to 85 pounds for just one, but we can have up to 2, just no more than 2, and no more than 60 pounds combined, I believe what it is. But dogs are what we have. But yeah, that was a new policy, dress code and hygiene policy that was really implemented because of our drivers wanting higher expectations of each other. So that was put on by our forum. Oh, for new students, that's okay. I don't. It should be under your profile, I think. He says, I don't know how to do the unknown, which is totally fine. I just want you to know that I'm answering your question, as far as I'm going through these, so that you're aware. But I guess if you didn't know it was unknown, you're like, who the heck is she talking to? They lobbied to and have gotten millions in subsidies supposedly for new driver training. Yeah, you know what? I should probably look into that even more, Mike, because I don't know a whole lot. Definitely, obviously we're not considered a mega carrier by any means. Mike says that mega carriers that are self-insured train new drivers. They lobbied to the federal government and have gotten millions in subsidies supposedly for new driver training, which could be, and I do need to read up on that to answer it. I'm not going to be able to answer it with a whole lot of knowledge behind that, because like I said, we aren't a mega carrier or self-insured for that matter, but we do have training available. It is important to have, for the industry to be able to bring in students, because without it, how do you get experience, right? At one point, all of you were considered a student, whether you went through a training or went through a schooling or not, right? Because at one point, because we all start as a newbie at one point or the other, whether it was, doing agriculture, farm work, and then moving into it, or actually going through a school, or a parent, who knows. But we need that in order to continue with having drivers coming into the industry and continuing to get everybody their stuff, all their stuff. Yeah, we all are guilty of that. Oh, not cool. Not cool, Mike. We'll have to send out another one. How's that? We have a weekly newsletter, so it's always good to send out reminders. So, reminder on policy. There we go. Cool. Yeah, it's always good to send out reminders and keep everybody in the loop. Because maybe the last time we sent out the policy, maybe that person wasn't with Decker, or maybe they missed it, or who knows. So we'll find that out. Let's see. I forgot what I was doing. Oh, we're talking refrigerated. Okay. So with the 11 and 3 and the 21 and 5, we do have minimum pay available in those divisions as well. So the minimum pay is going to be a reflection of the time. There's several requirements for that. Being available for dispatch. If you're on the 11 and 3, you need to be available the 11 days and then the 3 off. No preventable accidents, no claims, your miles, those are all, or excuse me, miles is not one of them, sorry, of those requirements that we were talking about. No load refusals, that's another requirement. But those are the minimum pay requirements. And if you're on the 3 weeks out, 21 days is what I was trying to say. 21 days, and then home for 5, then you have to be out and available for those 21 days. And then, of course, home for 5, that's the minimum requirement for those who are out that time. And again, your sign-on bonus, for most cases, those who are in areas that we only have the 21 and 5 rotation, those are a $4,000 sign-on bonus areas. The 11-3 and some areas of the 21 and 5, some of those overlap. So, so that's refrigerated. Refrigerated, no-touch freight for those solo positions. It is no-touch freight. Yes, we have a lot of drop and hook. We have seen an increase in miles in the last, I would say last 2 to 3 months. We've seen an additional increase in miles in the refrigerated division. We've seen a huge increase in miles in the flatbed division, for some areas more heavily than others. But we've seen a lot more of awarded freight. And when I say that, I mean additional contracts, and maybe even increased contracts for the current customers. Really honed in on improving those numbers for you guys, and improving not only in the number of miles and the length of haul, but where specifically those loads are being accepted at, to offer you better and more consistent home time, more consistent and better miles, that it's all kind of working together that way. So as far as flatbed goes, we have a couple of different opportunities as far as home weekly. We have an area that's in the Midwest, which is a minimum of $14.50 a week. That's pretty consistent around that $14.50 a week pay, so $1,450 a week. But we're seeing on average around $15.50 for that one, even though the minimum is $14.50. Where the refrigerated, the minimum is $1,000 in those that offer a minimum. The minimum is $1,000, but we see the rate of pay for based off of. Okay, so the minimum is just that, it's a safety net, right? Where your average is, you want your average to be higher, and in most cases, our average for that refrigerated division is significantly higher. And you want your rate of pay per mile and the miles you run. That's your goal. That's the pay that you want, because it's usually higher, unless you're not making yourself available and not, seeing. If you're not making yourself available, you'll notice that, and that's when you're like, man, could be using that minimum pay. let's just get your miles up. Like Mike was saying, um, let's get those miles up, and then you don't have to worry about it as much. Sorry, I thought I just saw a comment come in, and I wanted to make sure I answered it. Oh yeah, I'll have to. The DOT article, Mike, I'll have to check into that. Provides more training to flatbed drivers. We do. Yep, you're right. So Decker does provide flatbed training in-house. So you've got your orientation. Say you're an experienced driver that has at least 6 months of experience. I mean, ideally you'd have even more than that, but if you have at least 6 months of experience, and then you, but your experience is in maybe box, dry van or refrigerated, then, and you're wanting to get into flatbed, well, then we will train you. So you'll have your 3 days of orientation followed by tarping and securement training. And when we do tarping and securement training, we have a facility in Fort Dodge. Fort Dodge, Iowa is where our main office is, and main terminal, and is also where our orientation is. So we have a facility that we do most of the tarping and securement training in. That way, weather doesn't get in the way, and we can really take our time on it. You'll watch tarping and securing in action with several different loads, different style loads. You like sheetrock, or wallboard, steel beams, coils. I mean, there's several different instances that you'll go through because you want all those scenarios under your belt, right? So we'll show you. Then it's hands-on. So you not only get to watch it, but you get to practice it hands-on as well. Plus, we have a number of videos here on our YouTube channel that will walk you through the training, and that it's fantastic. One of our trainers, he actually goes through, one of our orientation trainers, not one that you go out on the road with right now, because Tanner's helps with the orientation, but he'll walk you through the process for tarping and securement, and on the video, he'll also help you, in class. But he shows you how to do it how to properly secure the loads and in the Decker fashion and everything. So if you need additional help, he's your man. But yes, so you're right, Mike. We definitely offer that additional training and the resources. Because the other thing is, you go through the securement training, the tarping securement, whether you have experience in flatbed or not, because it's nice to have it twofold. It's nice to have an understanding of the Decker way and what we prefer, but it's also good for Decker to make sure that these are the very minimum requirements that we are okay with. You need to at least have those requirements, if not beyond. Extra securement, love it. So yeah, that's available to all of our drivers that are going into the flatbed division following orientation. Supposed to be getting next week, but recruiter says it might be postponed in case. What items do I need to be? Oh, you're supposed to be going to orientation next week, and says it might be postponed in case any items we need to bring with us. A whole month's worth of stuff can get tight in a truck for 2. Yes, I would not bring a whole month's worth of items. I would shoot for more like a week's worth, maybe 2 weeks. And the reason being is, when you're coming in for orientation, the reason being is we have those wash facilities, right? We have the truck wash facilities, but I'm talking about, like, we have showers, we have laundry facilities. So, and when you are in a trainer truck, you're right, it does get tight. These are really nice trucks, and they are very roomy, but they're still trucks, and you're still limited to space. So you're right, I would bring about a week's worth, maybe 2, but make sure you have your bedding. If you want to do a sleeping bag and a pillow, awesome. Most people are bringing, the sheets and blankets and, bedding, so that they're comfortable. They're double bunk trucks, of course. All of our trucks are, not just our trainer trucks, but they're double bunk trucks. They have all kinds of amenities as far as APUs, inverters, refrigerators, microwaves, CB units. We have 22-inch televisions with the Epic View streaming software. Free Wi-Fi is included in that. All of that is paid by the company. We do have, our trucks are equipped with the satellite or radio ready, like for Sirius radio. However, that's not required to have. Decker does not pay for the subscription for the Sirius radio. However, if you want it, all the equipment is there. You just have to have the subscription. We have the free Wi-Fi and the free streaming, so a lot of people just choose to stream their music, which is fine. Just make sure that you are taking care of that before getting on the road, so that you're not messing with, you don't want to have anything to do with your cell phone or in a screen of any sort when it comes to going down the road, right? None of that stuff. Mike says, these are huge fines for not properly securing the... Yeah, there are huge fines. So, and besides just the fines, the whole safety of it, right? It's your safety. It's the safety of everybody out on the road around you. And of course the product, but yeah, this is something that you need to be well aware of. All right. There's something else I was going to say about that. What was it? Oh, training. Going out with a trainer. Yeah, so when you're out with a trainer, some companies do it a little bit different. We are definitely a training, like we definitely do the training. In my mind, it's very proper training where you're not teaming. These aren't team miles, these are training miles. So when you start out, you will be driving a little bit, and then the trainer will be driving a little bit, but it's teaching, and you're both using, you're not extending the hours available. These are true hours of service for a driver, so that you are alert when they're driving and vice versa. So it's true training. Where when you start, like I said, you won't be running a full day initially, but they'll work you into a full day of driving so that you're getting more and more comfortable with it. Because if you've never been out on the road for several days at a time and haven't driven full days every single time, it takes some getting used to. And so they're kind of easing you into it, not too slowly, because you need to get into it. Try to get your body and mind and everything into that rotation, that type of work atmosphere. So they're working you into that, up to that, I should say. But yeah, I think that's important as well. For the most part, for supplies, once you're out of the trainer truck, then you're going to want to make sure that you have even more. But we'll be routing you through the house to get the rest of your stuff so you can, make it more your own. But the trucks are very well equipped. They're very nice. They're newer model. We've got 2025s, 2024, 23. I'm trying to remember how old our oldest one is. On average, it's like 16 to 18 months for a truck. So they are definitely newer model trucks. Yeah. Mike says, driving solo, you can store a lot of luggage on the top bunk. Yeah, a ton. And that's part of the reason we went to, it's twofold actually. Well, probably more than that, but just like off the top of my head, twofold. Storage was a big deal. And these trucks do have quite a bit of storage in them and space. But when you add that top bunk, man, you can get all kinds of things in there. People use that top bunk all the time for storage. Secure everything into it. It's really quite nice. But if there are two of you, if you have a rider with you, because we allow riders ages 10 and up, if you have a rider with you, having that top bunk obviously is very, very important. And we want to make sure that you have that opportunity for the rider. It's nice to have a rider. Before, not all of our trucks were double bunk. I know this has been quite a few years ago, but they weren't all double bunk before. And when they weren't, and somebody wanted a rider with them, they either had to really, get used to tight elbow room, not much elbow room, um, and space. Or we had to find a truck that we already had that was double bunk, and usually those went to our trainers. So now it's a lot nicer. We don't have to worry about that. So if you want a rider, you can have the rider, as long as your safety record, as long as you qualify for a rider, meaning you've got a clean safety record. If you were on some sort of probation or had a couple of tickets or something, that maybe we wouldn't want you to have a rider at first. But yeah, it's $25 a month for the rider, by the way, and it's ages 10 and up. Unknown says, so the hotel we stay at the first week is at the facility? No, that's a great question, because I probably gave that impression. Because we do have what we call a Decker motel. Those are more of those private rooms that I was telling you about. So if your if your truck is in the shop and getting maintained and it's going to be a while, you might want to just check into what we call our Decker motel, so that you can have, there's bedding in that one. That's different than the private room, okay? This one is a hotel that you can, or a motel that you can stay in and rest and for overnight and stuff. But with the motel that you'll be, or the hotel that you'll be staying in, it's a hotel that you're staying in for orientation, those are off campus, and it's only about, I want to say 5 city blocks from from the terminal. Straight shot, basically. Pretty close to a straight shot. It's pretty dang close. And they're private or individual rooms, so we're not shacking you up with anybody. They're solo rooms, is what I meant to say. And so it's really not that far, but it's not on the campus. It's in Fort Dodge, just down the road from it. And that's where you'll be throughout orientation. Yep. Orientation usually starts at around 7, and we'll pick you up there. You'll get specifics from the recruiter when you start. So if you're starting next week, have you already done your physical and your drug test? Because what we usually have you do your physical ahead of time. Now your physical is probably still good because you just went through school and stuff. So as long as your physical is good for another year or so, minimum of 6 months, then you're good to go. If otherwise, we would schedule you for a new physical. We do the drug test, both the urinalysis and the hair follicle every time, and we do that before you get to orientation. And then, am I missing anything? Oh, and then online orientation. Duh. So online orientation is a number of modules. The module could be a video, it could be an article, it could be even an interactive image where you click on things and it'll pop up and tell you more about it. So we have a number of those modules followed by questions, and every time you finish a module, we'll move on to the next one. That's the online orientation. Now you'll have that online orientation before you come to Fort Dodge. Same with the drug test and the physical. We'll align all of that for you. And then you'll have the in-person orientation is going to be more over company policies and procedures and more getting to know, like, I'm going to use the word culture. I don't know if that's quite what we want to go for, but getting to know the ins and outs, the feel of Decker and how we go about things. So really the processes, and you'll meet individuals that'll be good, main contacts for you. Like I was talking with Mike earlier, and he was asking how to get a hold of one of the directors or something. You'll get to meet some of those individuals. They'll come into orientation. They'll introduce themselves. Oftentimes they give you a card, but their contact information is usually on the screen when you come in. But yeah, a lot of that. You'll also have access to an online orientation, which is available through our TransFlow app. Not an online orientation. As I said that, it's an orientation workbook. But the workbook has a ton of valuable information. We work really hard to make sure that information is readily available to you. And so we are included in that is the form that Mike is actually looking for, the important contacts form. But it also has information on the terminals, all of the amenities at the terminals. It has information on our fuel routing, tons of info on our maintenance department, which they took quite a bit of time to help us create that. And I really appreciate all the work they did for that. But yeah, Flatbed Trucker says, the real question is, do you have coffee? Well, I don't, because can you imagine me on caffeine? That would be scary. Because I don't. But I would say yes, they have coffee. So we have coffee at the terminals, the shops and terminals. So you betcha. At the PDCs. Unknown says, trying to get all that done before, but yes, online orientation is done. Very informative. It is very informative. So each of us took the online orientation, ahead of time as well, because we need to know what you're going through. Plus, I got to help create it, so it was a little easier. But going through it, I learned quite a bit myself in the process. But it was a lot. It's a lot of information. You probably won't retain all of it. Ideally, you do. But just in case you don't, that's why we have that orientation workbook to use or, use as a resource throughout your employment here at Decker. So, yeah, hopefully it's very informative and useful to you. All right. Yeah, we kind of talked about, we talked about equipment. One thing I do want to mention is our benefits, our benefits, they start after 60 days. So usually on your 61st day of employment is when you'll have access to your benefits. Right around your 21st day, I don't know why it's 21 days now that I'm saying that out loud, but right around that time period, you want to make sure that you have all of your information on what insurance you want. Get that submitted. That way, when it comes to your 60 days, it's ready to rock and roll. And that's going to include, if you want the health insurance, if you want the, so medical, dental, vision, prescription, long-term, short-term disability, additional life insurance. If you want the 401k, we have a 25% match on the 401k. You're automatically enrolled for a percentage. I think it's 3%, but you can bump it up, bump up to 8% of 8. Decker will match 25% of your contribution up to 8% of your total earnings. So, take advantage of that so that you can, have that match. But there's a lot that you can choose from. You just need to weigh out your options on. You don't want to be insurance rich and, not have the liquid money that you need. Sometimes words evade me. Yeah. But yeah, there's a lot of information available. You'll go through some of the benefits. That's another department that will come in during orientation and walk through it. Between Courtney and Andrea, they'll give you the details. They are very helpful in walking you through the process, and they're constantly providing us information, us as in their communication department, on information to share with you so that you have the most up-to-date resources. Also, we've got apps. We've got an app for that. Yeah, okay. So there's apps that you can access for the insurance and for the 401k, and those make life a lot easier so that you can have that information when you want it instead of having to chase phone calls around, makes life. Plus we have virtual doctors. We have our EAP program, which is a free resource. It's an employment assistance program. And it includes anything from counseling to resources on trusts and estate and adoption and childcare. I mean, so much information on there. Don't be going to buy something until you look into that EAP program and see if that free resource is available in there. Trainings on things, yeah, so much stuff. All right, well, I hope you have a wonderful trip up to Fort Dodge. If you do end up starting next week, like you said, just kind of waiting to see on the trainer availability. So I hope you have a wonderful orientation and get to enjoy yourself. And welcome to Decker. It'll be fun. It'll be fun to have you being represented by some great great people. You've got a great support system here at Decker, and which brings to mind, I'm going to go answer those questions for Mike and see if I can't get that connection working for him, and then I will hopefully touch base with you guys again next week for our Q&A next Tuesday, noon Central. We'll be live at 4 p.m. Central next Monday on our Facebook page